Hello and welcome! While I sit up out of my losing slouch. Good lord. The first game, I'm like, okay, I'll bait the misstep, try to clear a path for Ancestral, and oh, he has a second misstep, that's annoying, but I just need to draw anything, because your hand had to be depleted of resources in game one, and I draw, literally, there's two blank cards in my deck. There's the second land grant, and the third land grant. They're the only cards in my deck that don't do anything. They were my next two draw steps. Land grant number 2, land grant number 3.
They're not completely blank. You can imprint them on Chrome Mox.
Yeah, I'd already played my Chrome Mox in this game. I want my Preordain back from under the Chrome Mox. That's what I want. And then, yeah, the second game, I knew it was a little sketchy, but I don't think I can mulligan. I have on the play Chrome Mox into Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Living Wish, Mox Opal. So, I can turn one Living Wish for either the Tolarian Academy or the Kuldotha Forge Master and have them. I can play turn one Kuldotha Forge Master, except, of course, you have to have a misstep and choose to use it on Mana Vault, which I knew was a possibility, but I'm like, okay, look, if he missteps my Mana Vault, I've cleared a path for the Ancestral Recall, which is the other card I haven't told you about from my hand, and I'll just untap on turn 2 in Ancestral, but you have misstep into Ingot Chewer.
Yeah.
So I had 1 mana the entire game. We played, 10 turns? I literally never had access to a second mana the entire game. And I wasn't even close at the end of it. My hand is 2 Mox Opals, 2 Grim Monoliths, 2 Living Wishes. I have some, god-awful 3-pair.
You also had the misfortune of, basically, I have never prepared so much for a VSL match as I did this one. Okay. I tested this more than I've ever tested because to avoid the wretched 1-4 record. So I play tested probably 12 matches against your deck, and I comprehensively analyzed them in a spreadsheet. I think as well. So my sideboard plan for people who didn't know is I sideboarded out all my creatures except for 2 Delvers and Snapcaster Mage. I brought in all my anti-workshop artifact hates. So my plan was mana denial, to your point.
Yeah, no, I figured you would do that, and I figured you were super creature light, which is why I didn't concede when, right. I feel like if this had just been a random Magic Online match, I would have conceded 5 turns earlier. My hand was that bad. But, you have to show me an actual damage source. I'm okay, there's the Snapcaster Mage. I don't know how many creatures he's got in his deck, but I'm definitely dead 10 turns from now. I don't think I can stack my top 10 cards and win from here.
Well, in the VSL chat, I said I was shocked you conceded because...
you were the only one. Everyone else was
But folks watching my hand, I never drew a Force of Will that entire game. I didn't draw a Mind Break or a Force of Will. Not one.
It's not like I did.
So I had no counters. I didn't even have a Flusterstorm in case you played a Living Wish or anything. So
yeah, I know. So great, I can resolve a spell or two, but I can't get anywhere. I have 0 mana. And it's not like I have a handful of mana to dump as soon as I get there. My dream is 2 top decks let me Living Wish for an Academy that taps for 2.
Yeah. And you know what? When I was testing,
my hand was. I believe you that your hand was bad. My hand was somehow even worse.
I'm not sure it was bad, but I drew 30 some cards and I couldn't find a force. It was interesting in testing this matchup. I was surprised you didn't consider 1 Goblin Welder. 1 Goblin Welder is a Living Wish target.
Yeah, the Forge Master does the same thing. The problem is finding red mana to cast him is tricky. There's not that much red mana in the deck.
Yeah, you have 3 or 4 3 Mox Opals, I think, and then you've got Lotus Petal, Black Lotus, Mox Ruby.
It's 5 or 6 sources.
Yeah, and I think there are just situations where a single Goblin Welder would be really amazing in that deck.
Look, there's I thought about having white sideboard cards too, but I could have the creature that says you can't target me, whatever the new True Believer is. That's only 1 in a white, but I'm I only have 5 or 6 white sources. It's the same problem. So yeah, you can play games with the sideboard, just the colored mana sketchy. I think the deck is it's too fragile. It has similar strengths to Storm, similar weaknesses to Storm. It's just more fragile and less consistent, and maybe that's redundant. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure I just made a bad call.
Grids, I think it would have been a lot closer, and maybe you would have had an advantage, honestly. If you'd gone all-in on defense grids.
They're hard. Yeah, getting to 2 mana to cast them is tricky, though. The advantage of this deck is that it can actually go off quicker than the Storm deck. I'm supposed to win in a race against Storm.
Sure, but turn 1 defense grid is not totally infeasible, and then, turn 2...
Yeah, it's not unfeasible, but I have Force of Wills in my deck. I have half a dozen counters of my own.
That's true.
I don't know. It's enough of that. We should do the deck box. We've been doing this all day today. Wormwood Gaming. There's the box. Wormwood Gaming, who's one of our sponsors this season, nice enough to send us all a box. So Steve gets to unbox his. It's wormwoodgaming.com if you like what you see, and you kind of should like what you see. These boxes are super sweet. Like, if you want a high-end deck box, you can do a lot worse. It's a sideways pair of scissors. Look, Steve, this is a knife. You gotta go big.
It looks like a Jason Voorhees machine, Randy. Or just Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, if you put in, if you do go to the website, by the way, code Vintage Super League would get you. All right,
nice,
it's very well packed.
Firm packaging in here, so it's well packaged. There isn't going to be a lot of rattling with this box in here. There's a box within the box.
Of course,
right.
I bet there's a box in that too.
This is a nice box.
Yeah.
Wormwood Gaming.
Yeah, these guys aren't messing around.
Oh, this is just beautiful. Oh my goodness. I picked the right one, that's for sure.
Yeah, which kind did you get?
If you guys can see it. This is
the Catalogs.
This is, look at this. This wood is such a fine grain. It's beautiful. Holy smokes. And the leather is so nice here. I love this little button on the end too.
Oh, the snaps are super secure, and it's just, even with the Wormwood logo on the snaps, I'll play with mine while I'm here.
I don't know if folks can see it, but they've got the VSL ingrained logo, which is really sweet. Nice.
Names engraved on the inside too. Did you see that? Look inside the lid.
These are beautiful. I don't want to. How do I open it, Randy? Do I unsnap this?
Yeah, you unsnap.
Okay. Nice. I guess I'm never getting rid of this thing. That's great. Thank you guys so much. This is so cool. I'll definitely be.
Yeah, hats off to Wormwood Gaming.
You'll see. Super I will awesome. Be carrying this everywhere I go. Well, probably just Eternal Weekend and the big tournaments. I don't want this to get damaged, but this is really cool.
All right, down to match number 5. Hello and welcome to round number 5. Scott-Vargas on the top of your screen has a smokestack deck. Bob Maher on the bottom of your screen has a mentor deck. 2 and 2 for each of these guys. So, kind of a swing match here in the middle of the season. You look at starting to eye that run at top 4, or are you starting to look behind you and see if Kai's won a second time yet? It's my only saving grace. He's the only guy keeping me out of last right now. You got to win, beating me. Like, that was like the double whammy. Not only do I lose, but now I'm tied with you, and only Kai is below us.
Chris has the same record as us, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of 2-3s, I'm pretty sure. Okay. I mean, I think we have lots of company. So it's going to be pretty crowded in the middle.
It looks like Luis is on the play, and he has the old turn 1 Lodestone Golem, followed by Null Rod. So that's pretty insane. And Wasteland. Jesus. This is why I think Lodestone Golem is so obnoxious. Wow.
We should have just stuck with Athena's name for the deck. Stacks on stacks on stacks.
Yeah, I mean, Luis can play turn 1 Golem and or turn 2 Null Rod with Wasteland, or second Golem, or Smokestack.
Yeah, Bob's just digging. If he was on the play, several of these hands would have been solid. Like, imagine being on the play, Cabal Therapy, and like a very reasonable blind name with Cabal Therapy is Lodestone Golem. You hit 2 Lodestone Golems with your turn 1 blind therapy, that would have been insane. But no, Bob's on the draw, so he has to mulligan the Cabal Therapy hands, just trying to find land, and I hate smokestack decks. Really not a fan.
I love the card Smokestack. I just think Lodestone Golem is incredibly obnoxious.
Lodestone Golem is, yes. It's the problem. I actually do think Lodestone Golem is the most obnoxious card in the deck. I mean, obviously the Workshop is overpowered, but I mean, it's just, It's one of the overpowered cards that we've kind of decided gets to define what Vintage is, so fair enough. It's the Golem that's the unfair part. Like, the Workshop decks used to be these kind of slow, dirtily things that would try to, like, wrap you up like an anaconda.
Exactly. Right? It's the anaconda. I'm right there with you.
Gotta say that with a Manhattan accent. But Lodestone Golem is just like, no, I'm just going to win the game in 3 turns.
This game's already quite over. I think, the Wasteland is the finishing touch.
Right. Bob never gets to cast a spell. Good times. Man, are we supposed to try to get Lodestone Golem restricted? Is that the campaign?
Well, I thought, it's no secret that I felt that I would have preferred the restriction of Lodestone over Chalice, because Chalice gives you time to buy out. Golem is the one card that really doesn't. And you have to, before Golem, Workshop decks used to run cards like Juggernaut or just rely on the back of Earthbound Raptor. But I think I think it's beatable. I'll go on record. I beat LSV's Workshop deck in the season 3 with Oath Hercules combo. I just don't think that the TPS or the Dark Petition deck has enough consistency overall, because you're just totally banking on the Hercules plan. Whereas if you have Oath and Hercules, you can do one or the other. So let's see. Looks like Bob is bringing in a bunch of disenchants, and I can't tell whether he has a Kataki or not, but that would be good.
It's got a Stony Silence.
Stony Silence wouldn't have done anything in that game.
No, not that game. That's true. Bob's sideboard does not have Kataki. Is the other 1W 2-power creature is the Containment Priest.
I've always felt that these decks that don't have red or green are probably not able to consistently compete with Workshops. So I'll be impressed to see what Bob can do. I mean, isn't to say that white doesn't have a lot of tools like Kataki, but I never felt really comfortable without red or green.
Fair.
I don't know if he's going to keep in these Cabal therapies, but it looks like he is.
I like them. They're fine, especially on the play.
Yeah,
they're sketchy on the draw, but I like them on the play. Again, Lodestone Golem's a totally reasonable, just blind name.
And he has probe. He has probe, so it's not going to be always blind either.
Right. Stony Silence staying in the sideboard, looks like. I guess Luis isn't really on the aggro shops list.
No, he's old school stacks.
Well, I don't know about old school or metagame school. He's very much sort of bent his deck around the decks he expected to be playing here.
Interesting that I think he took out his Jace. Jace is one of the best turn 1 plays with Mentor he can get with a Lotus, right?
Yeah, but you're going to put a card in your deck because you might draw Black Lotus.
Well, I think on the play, you want to give yourself maximal outs.
Wow, Stony Silence does actual nothing against Luis. All it does is turn off his Moxes, and Bob has just as many.
Right. It's not like he's got like the Trikes or the Ravagers or even...
Yeah, it doesn't have any of that. That's interesting, though, that Luis has managed to put together a shops deck that just isn't vulnerable to one of the most common hate cards.
So Luis has the old Workshop Trinisphere, but on the draw, not quite as good. And Bob not only will be able to see it with Probe, but he has a Force of Will in store.
Yeah, and then Luis's hand is just all spheres and no action.
Yeah, interesting to see whether Luis will lead with the spheres behind Trinisphere or the Thorn, because this Monastery Mentor is going to come in and... I mean, I think there's a really good chance he'll be able to cast the Mentor. Not a given, but there's a good chance. He's defined, a couple more land, a couple more mana.
The basic island to play around Wasteland, of course.
I'm surprised he didn't lead with Probe, but I guess he...
That's his blue card for Force of Will? I mean, if you lead with Probe, then you're kind of obliged to pitch Trinisphere to Force of Will. Sees the Library of Alexandria. And Snapcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good cards.
The Library is just useful for mana at a minimum here.
At least. I mean, if he, it wouldn't take much to turn it on either.
Yeah, he's on target to be...
All right, so Luis does lead with the Trinisphere, of course. I have to imagine Bob is going to force this.
Definitely. See whether he kept the Snapcaster on top. Nope, bottomed it, got a Plains, was rewarded for his decision. Pretty good. And
Basic Plains is good times.
Definitely. And it's interesting that he can't fetch the Plains with the Delta, so it was good time with the Plains.
Yeah, you can obviously get white mana with a polluted Delta, but it would have been wastelandable white mana. Now, the parade of
Ooh, I don't
stricter
like that.
effects.
I don't like that at all. I
You would
think
lead Sphere?
definitely not even close. It doesn't hurt that you can do both, but
Yeah, I think that he figured if Bob is going to counter one, he wants to get the Thorn countered. So he led with the one that he liked less as bait.
yeah, but you'd rather have two spheres in play here.
It doesn't matter at 3 mana.
No, but it's going to matter next turn when he's got this.
But you can play a Sphere by then.
True, but he could have drawn a Mox. I guess Mox is not going to be cast at this point.
Right, and Mox doesn't turn a profit with the 1 Sphere. I mean, I do see your point. I think Luis played it that way to play around permission.
The Constricta is
indeed. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen the Vice.com documentary, the Farino brothers, who've been playing workshop decks as long as they've existed, basically, are the ones we're quoting. That was a cool documentary.
Definitely. So this is in some of the stuff that's going to happen to him. Bob doesn't even know about yet, but he's not going to have many options here. I mean, he can definitely play this Brainstorm and then fetch, but that really doesn't turn too much of a profit because then you expose yourself to Wasteland. Not to mention, I don't know how many basics he has, but if both basics are in play, the Ghost Quarter is also going to function in that regard.
I suspect it's 2 basics. I'll check. Yeah, no basics in the sideboard.
Ooh. And just 1 basic island and 1 plains?
Oh, it's 2 islands.
Okay.
Sorry, well, the plains is in from the sideboard. There we go. 3 total basics. He can get a second island.
And Bob is just so frustratingly away from being able to cast that Mentor. He wants that desperately to be able to try and race this smokestack. But
oh, that's true. Yeah, the monks are fodder for the smokestack, aren't they? I mean, he can play it here, right?
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, you're absolutely right.
Because it's a Thorn, not a Sphere. This is your whole point from 2 turns ago. If Luis had known there was no permission and gone Sphere, then Mentor would not be an option this turn.
I'm shocked.
In fact, it is.
Okay, there we go. Right, here we go. We got a game.
No cantrips, though, for Bob. No targets for Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, and that Thorn is going to allow him to potentially play this Snapcaster Mage as well.
That's a good point. I should think of the Snapcaster as a cantrip, even with the Sphere plus Thorn, right? He can snap. Oh, the Git Probe is exiled. I don't know that he can make the mana work. Oh, how about a Swords to Plowshare target?
Exactly. That's a monk too.
Exactly.
Not much to revoke here.
That is true.
This is actually kind of interesting. I'm not exactly sure what the proper sequence is with Smokestack, although it's pretty cool. Smokestack is old school card.
Oh yeah.
So if you're Luis, do you Wasteland and Ghost Quarter, or just Wasteland, see what he sacrifices, and then Ghost Quarter?
Well, the Ghost Quarter gives Bob an island, and Luis knows that. He's got access to the deck list. I mean, unless Bob is holding it.
I think you want to Wasteland immediately. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Right, so you don't want to give Bob the option to sack that to the smokestack.
And Bob now cannot play anything because Swords cost 4, Snapcaster Mage costs 4. So he's going to have to sacrifice, presumably, Library in his upkeep. Yeah, he's the smokestack is doing its thing now. Oh god, more swords.
That is not what Bob wanted to draw. Now he's definitely in trouble.
I don't think you ramp the smokestack.
No, leave it at 1. Yeah. Because you can leave it in play basically forever. at 1. Every card in Luis Scott-Vargas' deck is, in fact, a permanent. So he'll never run out of food to the set smokestack. He can always, worst case scenario, preserve his current board state.
Agreed.
And at 1, he can leave it in play. It'll whittle Bob down. It's not like Bob gets to play spells. There's 2 spheres and a thorn in play.
Yeah. So I can't really think of any outs at this point. I mean, yeah, there's nothing. It's done. It's over. Because any land he might draw is just going to get eaten by the smokestack. And to do anything, he needs to get to at least 4 mana. And he's 2 off from that. So even a Mox costs 3 here, and he's going to lose one of these lands. So it's over.
Wow. Luis Scott-Vargas continuing his record of piloting his anti-workshop deck to an undefeated record against people who do not have workshop in their deck. And yet he's 0-2 against fellow shop denizens.
I've played shops quite a bit in the past, and that's actually the thing that I've done. I think it's really not terribly difficult to build workshops to beat blue, but the trick is being able to beat blue and the mirror.
Yeah.
And I think
he sacrificed other matchups to win the mirror. It's just hilarious that the way the matches have played out, like he beat Dredge, for example. I have some very vivid memories of mulliganing to 0 in multiple games.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Thanks. I can respect that it was hilarious, even if I wasn't. Actually, you know what? By the end of the last game, I was laughing.
I think that was would have been the funniest match in the entire VSL. I was one of the casters for that one. I think we were laughing pretty hard.
And it was kind of absurd.
At one point, I think you serum powdered 3 times. Pretty funny. So,
smokestack, like a constrictor, just squeezing the life out of Bob Maher.
That's that lone mentor just sitting there. Poor guy. You really wanted to make some monks, but not today, friend.
God, this workshop deck looks so good.
Well, he did have a good night. Yeah, he did have turn 1 Trinisphere and 3 other spheres after that. So it's nice when you have that. And Bob didn't draw any Moxen at all to try and accelerate.
Wow. Luis Scott-Vargas going to move to 3-2. Just 1 match off the pace. Still very much in position to make a top 4. I guess he'd be in the playoff right now. We will break. We'll play. If we have a tie for the cut to top 4, it'll be playoff matches. It'll just be more Magic. Whatever deck people are playing at that last week. If it's a simple enough tie that we can just break it in week 9, we'll just add matches to the end of the show. If the season ended right now, we'd be doing playoff matches amongst the 3-2s, and Luis would be one of them. Don't break the ties for last, though. Everybody tied for last goes to the play-in tournament. So who knows how many spots will be on the line?
Achievement unlocked, triple revoker.
Moxborough. Yeah. And this workshop deck has looked so good tonight, and yet somehow it managed to lose a matchup to Storm.
Well, what really got Bob here is that Bob had Swords to Plowshares, which would have been great in the first game, where he was facing two
Lowstone Golem, absolutely.
But in this game, he's just got hammered by the old traditional spears. There's the rub-ins disenchant.
Only costs 5. Bob scoops him up. That was a fun night of Magic. We had some intense matches tonight. I don't know how much of the ones you got to saw. Some of the early ones in particular, just super close, kind of hanging on a knife's edge sort of matches.
I have to confess, I don't know how the other players feel about it, but it's really hard for me to watch the matches before my match because they're so intense. They're nerve-wracking. So
interesting.
So I just I can't really enjoy them and really think about.
So you turned in when we got into blowout territory. You just blew me out and Luis blew Bob out. The first three were pretty. Go back though. I'll put them on YouTube tonight. You can go back. You can watch them.
Oh, I love watching the YouTube replays. So
yeah, here you see where we're at. Webb managed to win against Ifro. Ifro could not draw anything to attack with after a gorgeous start in Game 3, and Webb is at 4-1, tied with Rich Shea for first place. You can see Rich beat Kai in a match that kind of stretched the standings out a little bit. Rich at 4-1, Kai falls to 1-4. I think Kai is the only 1-4, right? Because you beat me, Chris beat Tom, so there's only one guy at 1-4. That must mean we have a bunch of 2 and 3s.
I think we have 4, right? So we've got
Bob is 2 and
Chris,
3.
and you.
Yeah, 4 of us.
And Tom. So we have five 2 and 3.
How many 3 and 2s are there? Are there only 2? It's just Eric and Luis.
And then Webb all alone at 4-1. Nice.
Well, Webb and Rich Shea. 2 4-1s and 2 3 and 2s. If we were cutting to top 4 right now, it would just be everybody with a winning record. 2 4-1s, 2 3-2s. You know what that means, Steve? We're tied for 5th. That's what that sounds like to me. I felt like I was in 9th place, but all of a sudden I just found out I'm in 5th. So that works for me. I feel better. I can dream about being tied for right off top 4 until I run into Eric next week. Who knows? I'm due, right? The 2 draws I've had these last 2 weeks.
You're a faster deck than he is, and you've got blue cards like Force of Will. So just win the die roll next week, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big underdog, but if I win the die roll, it only takes a couple of ifs, and then all of a sudden, I could actually hang one up. I guess that'll do it for week 5. We've got one more week next week, and then we are taking a week off for Pro Tour Atlanta. So most of the league will be in Atlanta, either broadcasting or competing in the Pro Tour. Tune in, watch us there, but it means there will not be a show on that first Tuesday of February. Right after the Pro Tour, fresh deck lists for weeks 7, 8, and 9. So edge to those of us who don't have to build Pro Tour decks. We get a little more time to think about that last set of deck lists. And
the new set, right?
Yeah, OGW. How relevant do you think OGW is? That's a great point. Now, the colorless Eldrazi stuff looks super exciting and modern. I actually do expect OGW to have a significant impact on the Pro Tour coming up in Atlanta. But it's not like you can cast it off Mishra's Workshop. It's not like... Well, right? Are there cards? What are the cards you see?
Well, there are a lot of cards. I mean, first of all, if you're a Merfolk player, or even just a Gush player, that Jorien card looks incredibly attractive.
That's the blue-red guy that went the second spell of your turn is a cantrip?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think there are a bunch of cards in here that are interesting. The colorless removal spells probably can help support Dismember in different kinds of contexts, but they're more flexible. Okay. I think there's quite a bit, actually.
Interesting. Fair enough. We will indeed have OGW in the Vintage Super League when we come back after the Pro Tour. Definitely want to shout out to our sponsors. Puka Trade has been a lot of fun. I was talking earlier about how I think I have the first Wasteland traded on Puka Trade on its way toward me. Saturday, the day of the OGW pre-release, I was promised a Wasteland on Puka Trade, so it's on its way. That's kind of exciting. And then, we've been talking all day tonight about Wormwood Gaming, these super sweet deck boxes, which they will engrave with whatever you want engraved onto them. Like, we've got VSL logo on the front and names underside the lid. This is the Elm Burl, by the way, English Witch Elm Burl.
These are beautiful. I can't wait to go back and see the videos to see what else everyone else got. Oh, and for Puka Trade, I've got a Vryn Jace Prodigy on the way. So
very nice. Congratulations.
Excited about that.
Straight into the vintage deck. Where are you at on him in vintage these days? Mind Sculptor, Vryn's Prodigy. How does it stack up?
Well, I mean, I think Vryn is a very, very good card. I think it's probably. I'd probably still give the edge to Dak though, especially given how insane Workshops still are. So
yeah,
but to put it in Kenji terms, probably like Jace the Mind Sculptor, Jace Vryn's Prodigy, and then Dak Faden.
Got it. Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. See you everybody out there next week. See you next week, Steve. It's been fun for the whole crew. Thanks for watching Vintage Super League. Come back, same time, same place, next Tuesday.